Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Greetings, family. Welcome back to Raising the Vibe. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. So today we're going to continue talking about The Biggest Secret by David Icke. Now, we've already started on this book. We've gone through the introduction and the kinds of things that we can expect to learn about. And now we're going to move on to chapter 1. And that is entitled, "The Martians Have Landed?" So in this chapter, David Icke is telling us more about that brotherhood that he spoke about in the introduction. And he tells us right off the bat that because of the themes in this book, it is going to attract a lot of ridicule from a certain segment of the population. But he's going to put it out there anyway. And so we're going to talk about it just briefly so that you have a little more information about this aspect of what he considers the brotherhood, so that as we're moving through the book, we're all on the same page and we're able to understand what he's talking about. So this brotherhood, according to him, and I am reading, is a race of interbreeding bloodlines, a race within a race, in fact. And he said that over thousands of years, they have expanded across the globe. He informs us that the members of this bloodline are overwhelmingly male, and so he refers to them, as we know, as the Brotherhood. And he said because Babylon, ancient Babylon, has importance, great significance to this story, he calls them the Babylonian Brotherhood. He said their plan is called the Great Work of Ages, and he'll call it the Brotherhood Agenda, and that this Brotherhood Agenda can also be traced back for thousands of years, and that the structures of today's institutions in government, in banking, in business, military, and the media have not been infiltrated by the Brotherhood, but instead they were created by them from the start. And of course, the ultimate goal of the agenda and the role these institutions help to play is to achieve the centralized control of the planet. Now, with regard to this bloodline, the Babylonian Brotherhood, he tells us that they pass the baton from generation to generation. They are raised in a way to understand that the agenda is most important right from birth, and that it is their job to help manipulate reality into this great work. He says that the members of the bloodline are intellectually very sharp, with a compassion bypass and an arrogance that tells them that they have the right to rule the world and to control the masses. He points out that only safe people can make it to the top of the bloodline. And if there are any members of these families that challenge or reject the agenda, they are pushed aside, or as he says, dealt with in other ways. And I say we dare not speculate about that here. Now, he mentions the names of some of the bloodline families, and some of them you've heard of and should not be a big surprise. He mentions the British House of Windsor, the Rothschilds, all of the European royalty and aristocracy, and the so-called Eastern establishment of the United States, which of course produces our presidents, our business leaders, our bankers, and administrators. But he says that at the very top is a cabal, and he says that this cabal controls the human race and operates from the shadows outside of the public domain. He informs us that throughout history, these various factions of the Brotherhood have gone to war with each other, but when it counts, they always unite to advance the Brotherhood agenda. This is where it gets a little interesting, and I will leave it to you to determine whether or not you believe this part or see any truth in it. This cabal that operates from the shadows outside of the public domain, according to David Icke, stems from a race or races that are not from this planet. And he calls them extraterrestrials. I know these days we've heard a lot about extraterrestrials. Some of us believe in them, some of us don't, but that's what he's talking about in this chapter. I'm going to share the highlights. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll share the highlights with you so that as we move through the book, you understand what he's talking about. First, he makes the case for why he believes there are these extraterrestrials. He talks about the fact that there are billions of stars in our galaxy alone, that there are billions of galaxies in our universe, that there appears to be more than one planet in our solar system that can support life. So, these are some of the reasons that support his belief. He also points us to amazing and fantastic and huge structures all across the globe that don't appear to have been made by humans. And he says that these extraterrestrials are referred to as the gods in the Bible, in other ancient works, and in ancient oral traditions. He also talks about the fact that there previously was ancient technology and advanced knowledge that seemed to be lost to people over time. And that's something that we'll talk about beyond this book, because there are videos and books that talk about things like that and that suggest that that may be the case, and I'll be sharing some of those with you. But for now, he talks about how those extraterrestrials are mentioned in very ancient clay tablets. And here he's talking about the Sumerian text, Sumerian. I imagine some of you may be familiar with Sumeria, the Sumerian clay tablets. And there was a scholar named Zechariah Sitchin who purported to translate those, but we later found out that Sitchin is pretty much a fraud. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But anyway, that is a part of the evidence he uses in favor of the existence of these extraterrestrials. And so he's calling them the Anunnakis. I imagine that everybody watching this video has heard of the Anunnakis, whether you believe in them or you don't. And he goes into quite a great bit of detail, which I'm not going to go into. I just want to hit the high points or hit the highlights. If you haven't heard, supposedly the Anunnaki genetically created modern-day humans by combining their own God genes or advanced race genes with the genes of the Homo erectus that was on Earth at the time to form modern Homo sapiens. Okay, so he shares quite a bit of information about the Anunnaki. I mean, I've learned about them from other sources as well. So if this is something that people are interested in, we can certainly take a look at what the Anunnaki allegedly are and what they've allegedly done. But I'm not going to go into that here. I'll just mention that there were two brothers, Enlil and Enki, and they're supposedly different factions. They say that Enlil is the god of the Old Testament, and Enki is the one who actually created humans with more of an affinity for humans. And apparently, their descendants have had internal wars that caused cataclysmic events on the earth that we would take to be things like the Great Flood. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Mud Flood. There are a lot of theories about things that have been found on the earth that have not been disclosed to us, that most of us have never even heard of. And we'll talk about those in other videos in connection with other sources. But for these purposes, just know that it is his position that those events took place on Earth due to internal wars between these two factions of Anunnakis. So he goes on and on in depth, naming various Anunnaki, that are in the different factions and discussing what he believes to be the cataclysmic events on Earth that were caused by their internal wars. There's a lot of information, way more than we need for these purposes. But there is something that I do want to share, and it shocked me because I haven't read this book in over a decade, and I'm not reading the whole book and then coming to you with it. I'm just kind of reading over the chapter before I do the video, and so apparently there are going to be surprises for me too. And he's purporting to rely on research from various physicists, but his assertion is that white Martians built the pyramids and that there's evidence of pyramids on Mars as well, and that these white Martians went to war with an advanced black race to conquer the Earth. Interesting. He said that these wars were the wars of the gods, described in countless ancient texts. Truthfully, I can't say that any of this resonates with me, this whole Martian piece.
And I would also say that others point to Saturn as a planet of significance in terms of what's happening on this planet. However,
I can say that I find it interesting that there were indigenous black people all across the globe, and that there clearly, for an extended period of time, has been an all-out war on black people. And so, it makes it interesting to hear that, at least in his mind, or some group of people he affiliates with, there is some ancient advanced race who came down here to our planet with the advanced black race and went to war with them in order to conquer our planet. But the whole Mars, all that stuff, it really doesn't resonate with me. But let's see where he takes us with this as we continue through the book. But I do want to read, as we wind up this chapter, the first sentence of the last paragraph of this chapter. And it reads, "One common theme throughout," and that would be throughout Earth's history, however, has been the manipulation of humanity by an intellectually advanced, though not spiritually advanced, race or races of extraterrestrial origin. All right? So interesting. So that's what you need to know as we're moving through this book, that the author believes that the entities behind, the people in control at the top of the pyramid on our planet, are extraterrestrials that have manipulated and controlled humans for thousands of years. And it's fascinating. So let's see where he takes us next. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll be coming back, going into chapter 2, which is sure to raise some eyebrows. But let's hear the man out. Drop a comment if you would like to share your opinion on the things I've shared, or his positions, because that's what they are. Drop a comment. Let me know what sounds right, what sounds wrong. Is it all crazy? Are you interested in hearing more? I'm definitely going to share more, but I'd like to know how you guys are feeling about it. And in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I am really looking forward to seeing you next time. And until then, peace and love, family. Love and light.